everybody. Today we've got a very big lesson, so make sure that you grab a piece of paper, take some notes, because there's a lot to learn. We're going to be learning how to write the decimal equivalents of a fraction. Okay, here's an example of what I'm talking about, writing the decimal equivalents of a fraction. So that means writing a decimal that equals the same value as a fraction, and how we're going to do that. Here's one example. 3/4 is equivalent to 0.75, or the proper way to say that would be 75 hundredths. We're going to learn 3 different methods on how to change these fractions into their decimal equivalents. The first thing we need to do is have a very quick place value lesson. And when I'm talking place value, I'm talking only about the place values that fall behind the decimal, just so that we're reminding ourselves on what the names of the decimals are behind the decimal. So, here's our place value chart, or part of our place value chart. That's the ones place, the tens place, the hundredths place. And we all know what comes next. There's a comma, then the thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s. I know that y'all remember all of that stuff, but these are the places behind the decimal that you forget sometimes. So we're going to run through those real quick. So here's our decimal. It always sits right next to the ones place. To the right of the decimal, we have the tens, T-E-N-T-H-S, tenths place. After the tenths place, we have the hundredths place, H-U-N-D-R-E-D-T-H, hundredths, T-H-S, hundredths place. After the hundredths place, we have the thousandths place, T-H-O-U-S-A-N-D-T-H-S, thousandths place. So, as long as you remember that order, and I know y'all learned that last year in 5th grade, as long as you remember that order, tenths, hundredths, thousandths, tenths, hundredths, thousandths, T-H-T, tenths, hundredths, thousandths. Okay, there's a reason why that place value is so super important. That brings us to our first method. The first way we're going to take a fraction and change it to a decimal. I'm going to erase this. Here is method number 1. Method number 1 involves the proper pronunciation of the fraction. The proper pronunciation of a fraction. Here we have the fraction 6 tenths. That is the proper way to say that. Not 6/10, but 6 tenths. This fraction is a very easy fraction to write as a decimal equivalence. Because we remember our place value, we know that the tenths place sits right next to the decimal. 6 in the tenths place. 6 tenths, 6 tenths. That's a very easy one. Here's another one. The proper way to pronounce this fraction is 44 hundredths. 44 hundredths. And because we know our place value, here's our decimal place. We know the hundred place is not here, that's the tenths. Here's our hundredths place, and we're going to write in 44 hundredths. hundredths. That number stops at the hundredths place. Here's 44 hundredths of the fraction, 44 hundredths of the decimal. Here's one more example. $125,000. 125,000. That's the proper way to say that fraction. And because we know our place value, we know that the thousandths place takes up 3 spaces behind the decimal. So we're going to write 125. Make sure that last digit ends in the thousandths place. 125 thousandths, 125 thousandths. So you're looking at the fractions and their decimal equivalents. Now, the one thing I notice about these fractions is that they already have the tenths, the hundredths, and the thousandths, just like your place value chart. Sometimes, most of the time, you're going to run into fractions that don't look like this at all. When they look like this and they already have the tenths, hundredths, or the thousandths, just like your place value chart, those are easy. You just say them out loud, and whatever they sound like when you say them properly, that's what they look like as a decimal. Now, the next method we're going to learn is how to change fractions that don't look like this. So we're going to take a short break. We're going to learn method 2. Be back.